Welcome back. The moment the ball drops in Times Square on Tuesday night, another election year will begin, and Democrats think they have an argument after a rough few months that could make a difference in the midterms in November. Now, the focus, and if you saw the Times today, you know where we're going, it is on raising the minimum wage. Now, it gets widespread support in just about every single poll you can see, and it's not just in the blue states. This is nationwide. But the minimum wage is really just one part of the argument that Democrats are going to try and make in 2014. Call it the leading edge of their call for economic populism. Unemployment benefits, also part of the argument. This weekend, benefits for those out of work more than 26 weeks, that would be another interesting argument, those end. Democrats have already, stop it Richard, said that they will revisit this issue when Congress reconvenes next week. Now also in the debate, you got food stamps. Cuts expected in any finished version of the pending farm bill. The question is, how steep will those cuts run? And trust me, there's a difference. Republicans want 10 times of what the Democrats are offering. Okay, Andrew, is it a winning argument? And for the devil's advocate to say, I heard this one before, Occupy New York. Wasn't that what the whole thing was about? And in the end, nobody wanted to be attached to that thing.
This one is tough because the individual items poll well, and they poll favorably to Democrats or to the progressive side in all of this. But it's not necessarily one of these arguments that pushes people to the ballots. It's not an issue that people necessarily vote on. They're not going to go marching to the polls because they want food stamps increased or that they want the minimum wage increased. I think the real key to how successful an electoral strategy this is how Republicans handle the counter arguments to all of this. If they come across as being, you know, Scrooge and just let them eat cake and that sort of thing, and just really being, you know, handling this in a way that seems tone deaf, it could hurt the party in a lot of different races nationally. And
Richard, to that point, we've already gotten a little bit of a preview within the party. I think Boehner signaled to some that he'll consider extending them, but you got Rand Paul who says it's about laziness. I'm going to do them a favor, those on unemployment who are about to lose them. If I pull the benefits, magically they'll go find a job. Now, nonpartisan groups have said for every 3 unemployed out there, there's 1 job. So it's not like people are begging them to come to work and they just can't get off their you-know-whats. Internally, this is, especially with primaries that Republicans have to get through, it's going to be tricky, right? Again, we're talking unemployment insurance, we're talking food stamps, and we're talking about the other really definable issues with have and have-nots.
Well, look, I mean, Scrooge and Queen Antoinette and let them eat cake. I mean, there's a difference between that and being fiscally responsible. And that's what the Republicans are trying to do.
I'm not letting you have it both ways. I'm asking you, though, do you say to them, screw it, time's up here, you had your chance, you don't find it, you're on your own? Or do you say, you know what, let's not make this an issue, let's hang them on Obamacare, let's not have anything confuse our message here, extend the benefits? Listen, you don't have it 3 ways, it's one or the other.
The deal is all politics are local. So while nationally minimum wage may be a popular issue, and people may agree, 47% of Republicans may agree with that, but when you get back to the locality, what's important there are going to be jobs, Obamacare, and how I have the
but
increase.
If I go to Arkansas, or I go to a red state.
I have to pay more for my health care?
But if I go to Arkansas, I go to a red state, I go somewhere else, they're more likely to be getting $7.25 now than they are in New York and some of the blue states.
If they have jobs.
If they got a job. So if they say to them, listen, we want to raise the federal minimum wage to $10 and change, don't you think that's going to do real well in Arkansas? And the Democrat says, I'll give you $10. Richard, what will you give him? And St. Paul say, you got $7 and you should be lucky.
Maybe it won't, because if I'm in Arkansas, then I need somebody to come along and create jobs, like a Walmart, who was actually headquarters in Arkansas. And if I hear Walmart saying, listen, we can at $10 an hour, we can hire 5,000 employees. At $8 an hour, we can hire 10. People in Arkansas are going to say, well, we'll take the $8 because at least we have a job. And so that's really how it's going to break down is, look, the minimum wage is not going to create a living wage. People are still going to be poor.
Okay. But that's only part of the argument. And you make the valid economic argument in all of this. But there's a lot of folks on conservative media, and there's a lot of folks in the Tea Party for whom this is not an economic argument. This is supposed to be a starting wage, and you know that you're supposed to not like the minimum wage, and so you got to keep it low because it incentivizes people to do better in their lives. Same thing with food stamps. We don't want to make it too sweet because they're supposed to get off their butts and actually get back to work and stop, you know, going off the public dole. They're just users and leeches on society.
And unemployment. If you didn't find a job by now, tough on.
This is a major theme. This is a major theme within Republican.
Boehner has said, "Hey, listen, I'll look at, you know, funding more unemployment, but we've got to find a way to pay for it. I think that's perfectly
Okay,
logical.
but you know what, Dom? I got the easy commercial that Democrats want to do. Texaco, they made, I think it was about $40 billion last year, right? Might have been 50. We're paying them basically taxpayer money to incentivize them to go drill. Why are we doing corporate welfare? I can do a whole other bunch of other examples. The farm bill, where this whole food stamp started, they're paying farmers, the bigger farmers, 300 grand or whatever to stop producing crops, but they want to cut somebody else on the food stamp thing. You can do it without being socialist, the have and have-nots. And I think a lot of people say, time out. There's a lot of people look like me that are taking food stamps right now or that are unemployed or whatever else. It's not just the crackhead sitting on the corner here who can't get off his or her, duff. I think people get it more because they see more and they understand more people, or they themselves have been in that spot because there's a lot more people that nobody debates that are in the bottom rung now that used to be. What do you think? How does this poll, how does
I
this
think
play?
that your ad idea, in all likelihood, would work, but I do agree that all politics are local. And you have to look at it from the view of that one local district. So what may play very well here in the North is not going to play in the South or the Midwest. I think that if Democrats focus on the minimum wage, that it is a winning argument. But I also think that it depends on how do you define poor and middle class. Because
to be fair, I'm not creating a
Minimum wage
playbook
doesn't
here,
take you to the middle
Andrew.
class, I'll tell
We've
you that
seen
much.
this before in history. FDR famously said, come get some, in terms of I welcome your enmity on the money changes or whatever. In that when we've had this gap, we haven't had this. You got to go back to the 30s to see it as bad as this between how wide it is.
That's true, but the danger,
and it played.
The danger in all this is, think back to 2008, 2009, where there was so much anger towards Wall Street for what was seen as causing the crash. But when the explanation came down, and you would think there'd be people out with pitchforks saying, let's go get these bankers on Wall Street.
Though.
Yeah, I don't know, because the counter-argument of you hurt Wall Street, you hurt business, and that hurts jobs.
No, nobody understood
played.
derivatives,
No,
and that everybody knew at the end you couldn't say
everybody blamed Wall Street.
But look at how the right and Republicans went after Obama on the increase in food stamps. So what do you think they're going to do with the minimum wage argument?
But you know what? I don't think people realize how many and who's on food stamps. If you just show, and you want to do it state by state, you can do it by state. The dumbest thing any nonpartisan economist will tell you to do is you cut somebody off unemployment insurance and you cut off the food stamps. And this has nothing to do with morality. What are they going to do? You got to feed them. You got to feed them. And you got to give them something to live. Otherwise, what are you going to do? You're going to build more homeless shelters? I don't think that's going to fly. At the end of the day, forgetting morality, and I think there's a huge moral argument, but take it aside. What do you do with them? And there's no logical answer that I get back. So as a consequence, I'll give you the easy way out and take this flawed status quo and just perpetuate it a little bit more. You may say the math doesn't add up, but what's the alternative?
Look, the alternative is very simple. We've got to come together. Congress has to come together, and the president.
Already, I know that can't work. Go ahead, yeah.
But it's got to work, and do what's right, and come up with a jobs plan, a jobs bill. Look, we've seen the economy is growing. Unemployment's at 7%. We need to keep following that road, but we need our government to act
Okay, but the only way you want to do a jobs program is that's infrastructure. And they already said Republicans, that the government wage, big government, bad.
He's going to say tax breaks. That's how you start
tax
jobs.
break, economic incentives.
See?
Thank you, Andrew. I'm sorry.
Infrastructure.
I didn't know.
Multinational
all of
corporations.
this stuff. Not,
Yeah.
But these multinational corporations actually employ people who are the middle class and who.
I'm available for speechwriting if you need me.
All right. Well, they agree here. I'm going to take my chance to go to break. All right, when we come back here, 12 years of Michael Bloomberg is about to end. How will he be remembered? We'll talk about that with our guest after this.